So, you realize that hashtag Pray for Amazonia is going to accomplish as much to put out those apocalyptic fires as your thoughts and prayers are going to accomplish to end gun violence in America. And you want to actually do something about it. Good, because you're terrified, right? Good. You should be terrified. Because the Amazon isn't just home to an incomprehensible amount of life. If the Amazon goes up in flames, the smoke, the greenhouse gases from those fires will unleash climate catastrophes of the sort that will make Mad Max look like a Disney movie. So before we figure out how to save the rainforest, we need to understand why it's being destroyed. Why are Brazilians burning down the rainforest when literally all life on Earth depends on it? Brazilian people are not burning down the rainforest just for the hell of it. They're doing it for the same reason that people do a lot of things. Money. Specifically, they're burning down the rainforest so they can make room to raise cows, so they can stab those cows to death, so they can chop them up into pieces and sell their body parts to anybody that eats cows. That is the cause of 91% of the destruction of the Brazilian Amazon. And of that remaining 9%, a large amount of that is growing crops to feed cows and farm animals around the world. So altogether, animal agriculture as a whole, the consumption of animals by people, is by far the number one reason that the rainforest is being burnt to the ground. So if you want to do something to actually put out those fires, switch to plant-based meat and stop eating animals. It's that simple. And by the way, if you think that you could just ignore Brazilian cow products and hashtag eat local and you're part of the solution, then you're living a delusion. This isn't just a Brazilian issue, and this isn't just an issue about cows. Look at this map of America. 41% of all the land in the continental United States, 800 million acres, is being used to raise animals to slaughter for human consumption. Globally speaking, animal agriculture is the number one cause of habitat destruction and the mass extinction that comes along with it. It is the number one cause of water consumption. It is the number one cause of water contamination. Hold up for a second. I want to apologize about the shaky camera movements. You could blame the cameraman, which is me. But whatever you do, don't blame this boy right here who's attached to the camera, man, because he can do no wrong. Say hi, Lubu. It's the number one cause of ocean dead zones, and it is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions that are destroying the Earth's climate than all of the world's cars, trucks, planes, and ships in the world combined. Now that's the bad news. The good news is that if humans were to switch from an animal to a plant-based diet, it would free up 75% of all the land currently being taken up by the human race right now. Not to mention ending our assault on the world's oceans, which are also dying as we speak, another threat to the existence of humans and all life on Earth. 75% of all the land currently being taken up by the human race, for context, is the equivalent to the land area of the United States, China, the European Union, and the continent of Australia combined. All allowed to regenerate into nature, rainforests, savannas, grasslands, marshes allowed to grow back and become a habitat for endangered species that are currently on the brink of extinction. That's the miracle the human race needs to survive the climate emergency, and it relies on humans eating plant-based instead of corpse-based meat. So, while you personally going vegan will make a massive difference and will save approximately 10,000 square feet of forest, 400,000 gallons of water, 7,000 pounds of greenhouse gas emissions, and the lives of about 100 to 300 animals a year, that's of course depending on how many animals you currently eat every year, you personally going vegan still won't be enough to save the entire Amazon rainforest and the planet, of course. In fact, even if you're already vegan, you might still be a huge part of the problem. And the issue there is the same issue that we're gonna need to tackle if we're gonna solve the overall planetary emergency: politics. Specifically, I'm talking to the vegans of the sort who like to repeat the myth that, oh, there's no difference between right and left-wing politics, it's all the same. Both, what's the expression I heard the other day? Two wings, left wing, right wing, two wings of the same chicken or some bullshit like that. Pay attention to the motherfucking facts. If you compare what's happening now to what has been happening in previous years with previous governments in Brazil, left-wing governments in Brazil, not perfect by any stretch, but they made massive progress in protecting the Amazon, in lowering deforestation, in lowering the amount of fires that were set for the destruction there. They weren't perfect by any stretch, just like nobody's perfect, just like Democrats aren't perfect, etc. But the difference between them is fucking enormous. It's a mass extinction of a difference. If you think there's no difference, it's because you're sitting on your privileged ass somewhere and don't understand, because you haven't been personally affected. actually, you have been personally affected by it. You're just ignorant as to how. Because to use Donald Trump as an example, you know, pumping out massive amounts of toxic pollution into the air across North America and the world, whether you know about that or not, you are being poisoned by that piece of shit. So wake the fuck up. But I digress. Even if you don't live in Brazil, your country matters in terms of its own policy, and your country matters in terms of the way it influences Brazil. Just the other day, the president of France said that an entire massive trade deal with South America is now in jeopardy because of these fires, and he might cancel the entire deal unless Brazil takes action. Fantastic. The president of the United States wasn't a complete moron and conspiracy theorist. He would also be taking action on this, except that the United States has far more power than any other country in the world, so the action taken by the United States matters. For example, the last legitimately elected president of the United States, Barack Obama, made a historic deal with Brazil to address the climate emergency, and that led to very real progress both in the United States and in Brazil. And of course, every one of us lives in a country where millions of lives, both animals' lives and human lives, are at stake every single election. In the case of larger countries like the United States, it could be tens of millions, even billions of lives at stake. And if you want in-depth look at the way Republicans and Democrats have a mass extinction of a difference between them on these issues, check out this article, which was the culmination of over 2 years of research into the destruction unleashed by the Trump administration, as well as the progress made by the Obama administration, which is just part of a historical trend that separates Republicans and Democrats. If you live in Canada, we've got an election coming up real soon. And again, a huge difference between left and right, between liberal and conservative. I'm gonna be making a series of videos on that, so subscribe if you wanna stay up to date, and message me if you wanna get active in mobilizing animal lovers in Canada ahead of our October election. Anyways, I don't wanna get too in depth into that here because I have a whole series of videos coming out about vegan politics. The bottom line is to fucking pay attention. If you want to support the work I'm doing, raising awareness on animal rights, on vegan politics, the music that I'm doing, the comedy that I'm doing, you can check out the V-GANG and Humanimal Alliance gear on this page. Check out the Patreon page, where some of the rewards include V-GANG Humanimal Alliance attire. And thank you so much for listening. Fucking don't pray for the Amazon. Do something about it. Keep eating meat. Stop eating animals.